Hello, good evening, and thanks for your time on this edition of Politics and Beyond. This your favorite program that touches on very critical issues of national interest. Tonight, I'm sitting in for your usual host, Emmanuel Wilson Jr., who is out of town. He's going to be away for a couple of weeks, so I will be engaging you from time to time every Monday between 8 and 9 o'clock. Before I talk to the subject for tonight's discussion, I want to draw your attention to something of interest to me that must bother you. And of course, the Ghana Police Service should be following what I am monitoring on social media. This about the cases of missing persons. And so over the past 2 weeks, these are the faces of people I have chanced on social media as people who are missing. I don't understand what is going on, but because of the politics and the heat within the system, it will look as if our focus is not on what I am monitoring. I've shared a couple of concerns on my social media handles, and just today, I was also following a conversation in the northern region, and what I came across was a farming community called Kakpayele in the northern region, and the police statement is talking about the murder of 2 children. The information we are picking is that they discovered these bodies in a car, chopped into pieces, and the body was found close to a ritualist. As we speak, that suspect has been apprehended, and the police is investigating the matter. So beyond the pictures I showed you, 2 people have been found dead, and these 2 children are all 3 years old. If you have a child, you have a relative, especially those who go to school and come back alone, I am not raising an alarm, but it's an issue of public interest. And so I'm sharing this with you. Tell a friend to be very careful these days. And if you look at the pictures, there are adults. One of them, I'm told, is an NDC member in the Tema constituency, and you can see some adults in there. I don't know what is happening, but you can see some minors at the base of all these pictures I've put from different platforms on social media. Now, our conversation tonight has been triggered by a directive by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. It says, SSNIT, stop the planned sale of the hotels. We have christened it SSNIT Hotels Sales. But what we know is that SSNIT wants to trade off 60% majority shareholding in SSNIT. So I have been looking at the NPRA as a statutory body, which is supposed to be carrying a certain mandate. So I've been asking myself, what is really the mandate of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority? And so I just copied the act, and it says it is a statutory agency established by the National Pensions Act 2008, Act 766, and aside regulating and monitoring operations of the 3-tier pension scheme, NPRA's mandate is to ensure effective administration of all pensions in the country. The NPRA oversees both public and private pension schemes, playing a crucial role in pensions administration and policy development. More so, it supervises and regulates the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. I don't understand what this means, but if you look at the NPRA statement that was issued over the weekend, which has made a lot of people happy, it's very instructive. You will notice as we go through the statement that in paragraph 3 of this statement, it is very instructive, giving direct orders to SSNIT to stop the sale. But I am not even interested in what NPRA has issued. Look at those who have been copied in this statement, which is on the next page. You have the sector minister in charge of pensions, the board chair, and all of us are aware of the position of the board chair, Elizabeth Ohene, because he has written a long article justifying what she has supervised as board chair of SSNIT. Then we also have the NPRA board, which is also there, which has also been copied. That's the board chair of NPRA. Now, these developments are raising a number of issues. As I try to comb through what people have been saying, the arguments here and there, the defense here and there, and it brings to question some critical questions I want to share with you before I introduce my guest, because these are teasers to prick your conscience, to reflect again and see what we need to do right to stop us from getting to where we are. And so these are matters of concern I want to share with you on the screen. It says, 1, are there good corporate governance issues glossed over that must be answered, and by who? Representation of the SSNIT NPRA board, are they working in government interest and by extension the Ghanaian worker? And if so, at what stage must they be sharing critical information? I'll explain why this question is very interesting, because I'll take you to the composition of the membership of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority and the membership of the SSNIT board, and you see where this interest is. Now let's go back to the matters of concern. How about the representation of the SSNIT board, which has oversight responsibility in ensuring profitability and protecting workers' investments? And the last one says, representation of organized labor on the SSNIT board. Are they representative enough, or just a select few from the TUC? And this takes me to, when we talk about organized labor, many of us think organized labor will be the few we hear of every day. But organized labor is beyond the TUC. So in there, you see a list of them, and I'll quickly mention some of them, which include the Trades Union Congress, which has 21 affiliate national unions, the Ghana Federation of Labor, National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Concerned Teachers Association, CLOCSAC, which is very common, Judicial Services, Ghana Registered Nurses Association, Medical Association, National Association of Registered Midwives, Government Hospitals, University Teachers, Technical University Teachers, Technical University Administrators, and so on. Just look at the teaching profession alone, and look at how huge that membership is. Or look at the health profession alone and look at the list. Even the Federation of Labor alone has a list under it. And if you look at Federation of Labor, you have the Textile, Garment and Leather Employees Union, that's TEGLU, Food and Allied Workers Union, General Manufacturing and Metal Workers Union, Union of Private Security Personnel, and it goes on, Finance and Business Services, on and on and on. All these are supposed to be members of the Trades Union Congress, as well as other sister unions forming organized labor. So when we talk about representation on the various boards, what are we talking about? So you would notice that on the SSNIT board, which generated the controversy when the information was leaked by the MP for Norton, only 4 people have been made public. And the names are there. Mr. John Senanu Amegashi is the representative of organized labor, and my search indicates is the general secretary of the Union of Industry, Commerce and Finance Workers, that's UNICOF. Then Mr. Joshua Ansah is a member of organized labor and is the deputy general secretary of the TUC. Then we have Dr. Evans Agbema Jikum, who is a representative of organized labor and is the president, if I'm correct, of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, and Miss Ivy Naso, who we saw when some of the issues came up because she was speaking to it. Now, when you look at all these things that I've shared with you, you ask yourself, what is really happening? Now, look at the representation of the board of SSNIT, and many of the names in there, you see all of them there, including the 4 I mentioned from organized labor. Then you ask yourself, so after all these things we have talked about, what really should be of interest? Now let's look at the composition of the membership of SSNIT and what the Constitution says or the Act says. Now you notice that a chairperson, 2 persons nominated by the president, 2 representatives of Ghana Employers Association, 4 representatives of organized labor, 1 representative of National Pensions Association. Take note of this. 1 representative of ministry responsible for finance, 1 representative of security services, the director general himself, and a company secretary. Now look at the NPRA board. And if you look at the NPRA board, you will see in there a representation from organized labor 2. And then you have the Ghana Pensions Association and the Ghana Employers Association. Now my question is, at what stage should representation of labor, when they SSNIT on the boards, and don't forget they have a mandate to report back to the leadership of organized labor, who may have the right to go back, and I'll call it Congress, the ordinary members of the various unions, to speak to the issues that border on their future and national security. It is at this stage that I want to introduce my guests for tonight's conversation. They are very experienced, and I will start with the one with me in the studio. It's a labor dispute resolution expert and consultant. I won't mention his name. Some of you are already beginning to suspect who this person is. He's a former Deputy Minister for Employment and Social Welfare, now Employment and Labor Relations. Is the chairman of the committee that drafted, very interesting, the codified labor bill for Ghana as far back in 1999. Is the president of the Institute of Human Resource and Management Practitioners at that time from 1998 to 2003. And what makes it instructive for me to have him with me in the studio to have this conversation is that he was once the Presidential Commissioner on Pensions. He's Mr. Austin Gama. You're welcome, and I'm very privileged you joined me in the studio.
Thank you.
Initially, I think we're going to do Zoom with you, and so when I heard that traffic may catch you and you have decided to be with us in the studio, I told myself, thank God, because it's more exciting to have you in the studio. Also, to be joined on this program is a banking and financial analyst, Koshi Jokoto. We are told that these hotels that were lined up for sale are not making profit. So it has to do with investment, capital, and management. Maybe you'll be speaking to those issues and some of the topics of interest. And of course, we have Abraham Kumson. He's a labor unionist. He has been very vocal with his own opinion on what has happened. I monitored him last week, and he said the labor or organized labor itself is not organized. And so that's where I will leave it. He will join us later on this program by phone. Now, Mr. Austin Game, I tried to go back into the details to paint a certain picture of flaws or negligence or deliberate actions. When you listen to the preamble, what was going through your mind, and what are your initial or opening statements on this controversy?
Thank you. I think it should be of great concern to all of us, not just those who are those who are on pension and those who are about to come on pension, but it should be of concern to everybody, including the 20 years old, so long as you are working. And one day, pensioning matter will be staring at you. Also, it should be of great concern, particularly in this election year, all those who are moving about preparing to become president or to play leadership role in this country. It should be of great concern because it's of national security magnitude. That is what is of great concern to me, particularly because I do know what went into arriving at the pension system today, and the separation of MPRA, SSNIT, and the overseeing activities of MPRA over SSNIT and other pension things. And what we have already suffered, people think that because organized labor at a point in time did say that they should not touch, the haircut should not touch their pension, but it has touched it, because SSNIT invested in areas where they have touched. So, by extension, they've touched it. Only that we are not mindful about these things sufficiently. And it's good this program is coming on. People will further be enlightened, including what has been done already. So I'm grateful.
Thank you. So let me take your opening remarks, Koshi Jokoto. Now, I'm sure you have followed the conversation. And for you, as somebody who I would just put in paraphrased form, an investment banker, when you sit back and you look at these strategic assets and how the conversation is going, what works you out?
It's interesting, Eric. SSNIT itself needs to be looked at critically, because the sale of the hotel is not the only issue SSNIT is going through. If you go into the financial statement of SSNIT, 2002, 2003, it is clear and obvious that the SSNIT or the fund itself is not being managed well. And we are not getting the best out of what the funds that are available to SSNIT. That is clear. And if you check the Auditor General's report, it is also obvious. They've stated it. They have invested some equities in about 10 companies. For more than 10 years, all these companies never pay dividend. Some are running at a loss. The issue is, if you have identified these issues, what the processes you have to adopt to make sure they work better is what SSNIT is lacking. And bringing it to the sale of this hotel, it is surprising that SSNIT thinks the best or the optimal choice for this decision is to sell these hotels to a sitting cabinet minister of state, because it raises a lot of corporate governance issues. It raises issues of ethics in governance. And SSNIT is not the beneficiary of all this that we are talking about. It is the workers, we the workers, that contribute to these funds. SSNIT is just a trust. And it has a fiduciary responsibility to do stuff in the interest of what? The fund, not in their personal interest. That is what we are not getting. So the issues generally about SSNIT, it has to be looked at from one stage to the other. How they have money. In fact, in the 2022 report from SSNIT itself, stated clearly that by 2036, if nothing is done about the scheme, it will collapse. And as we speak, 2023, 2022, they had issues about liquidity. Okay, so as my opening statement, I want us to look at maybe the overall.
So we will come to that, but let's get some education here, especially from Mr. Austin Gamel, because they are some of the fine brains behind what was put together as texts, which transformed into acts or the law that is governing either SSNIT or by extension what has been adopted to draft what is regulating the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. What could be the flaws that are being exploited if you sit back and look at what you were involved in putting together?
This was during President Kufuor's time. I was invited by SSNIT, by Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, to represent them on the commission. And I recall President Kufuor sent somebody to me, and I agreed, and here we are. It took us not less than 2.5 to 3 years. From 2005, 2006, 2007, we were working, and we went around the whole country, took information, look at Chile, look at Senegal and others, and we zero onto Chile and Senegal, and we branded what we think is feasible and doable for our country. To the extent that because we consulted extensively, we brought in the Makola people and their leadership. And that's the reason why I'm mentioning them in particular, is because people think because they are the most intellectual people in the country, the people down there, they see them as non-entities as they may wish. That is not the case. All we brought them, the women and their leaders, told us in private that, look, they listen to radio and TV, they observe what is going on in the country. They don't have confidence in SSNIT. So they would not like to contribute their money to SSNIT. So if we can create something other than SSNIT, they will contribute. That led to the creation of the second tier. So people should not underrate anybody in this country. Everybody is important. Now, Then we examined closely. I, fortunately, together with one Josephine Amoa, who used to be the insurance commissioner, we were sent to go and take a closer look at the activities of SSNIT. So I know the in and out of it. All their things were before us. And I can recall the fear, that the anxiety that we went through. Not only them, and the superannuation scheme of the investors. We examine it. I know what they did. I don't want to put fear and panic in the system, so I will not talk into details. But let me put it this way. So we created the second tier and also requested that in the enactment of the bill that brought about the 766 into being, we should ensure that we have a superintending authority to oversee the activities of all pensions.
That is the NPRA.
NPRA. Together, they should also superintend over SSNIT. So we have a handle on it. Unfortunately, the demon of partisan and our craze of politics has made governments to be responsible for putting their long arm into the activities of SSNIT and appointing all manner of people who are not supposed to be there. And so SSNIT is not being managed well. I mean, let me feel free.
That's how blunt it
yes,
can be.
Let me feel free.
As a corporate governance issue, and knowing the composition of the various groups whose contribution creates the cash flow for SSNIT to operate with.
I'm going to come there.
Okay, now go ahead.
You see, the positive assumption here is that if the leadership of the country, which presently appoints people, and this must be reformed, no matter what, from next year, if they can't do it now, because we are maybe living in injury time, next year, whoever becomes president must provide high quality leadership. We don't just want any leadership. We want high quality leadership to ensure that the areas where we have our cash cows, we don't joke with them at all. People's pension is real, because they are the most vulnerable people when you come of age, like me now. And the young people, we are virtually, if you are old, we are like the young people. So we assume positively that with NPRA in place, this matter, it shouldn't take my friend and brother Sami Okujeto to be the one raising this alarm. NPRA should have its nose smelling every corner. You don't even need to be proactive. So they should be smelling, because fortunately they have a board which has the same people, and these people are supposed to be reporting. Maybe let me unveil something to you as a teacher of some of these things. One, where in far back as 2018, where is the corporate objective that SSNIT and its board put together, and the cascading effect down there, and therefore what budget, what plan do they have, what strategy do they have to ensure that the things that they have invested in, report are brought to them, they examine it based on certain actuarial things that they may do themselves, and report to NPRA. And did NPRA demand from SSNIT some of these details I'm talking about now, so that the members from organized labor should have been reporting to the council, the organized labor council, so that their representative on the SSNIT board, together with the NPRA one, would have come together and report, because the money is not their money. They are not there representing themselves. They are representing the owners of the money, and the owners of the money is not government, it's the people who contribute towards it. And therefore, that is the period. So those who are blaming Samuel Kuteto, they are only blaming him for nothing.
Now, I'll come back to you, but you raised an interesting point. And then if you look at the composition of the NPRA board, there is something that is very instructive. Maybe my producers will share it, the last page, which comes with NB. It says the chairperson and other members of the board shall be appointed by the president in accordance with Article 70 of the Constitution. It says the president may, that is where the loophole is, in appointing the members of the board, take into account persons with experience in the following: finance and investment, law, accounting, pension management, and actuarial science, which you just referenced, business administration, and other areas of expertise. In his preamble, he talked about projections that were made when he had opportunity to look into the books of SSNIT. As young as I was several years ago, when some of us had opportunity to live within SSNIT flats, we could see that even the SSNIT estates that were built were not being managed for profit, but being managed for convenience and for sharing to cronies, either by SSNIT management or maybe a government of the day within the period where these things must have taken place. Now the question is, could organized labor, look at the composition of organized labor, have been so weak or useless or compromised to the extent that they were ignorant or couldn't have raised alarm from yesterday till where we are, where it is being abused to the limit? I'm taking the question to you from the perspective of an investor or a banker who can see into the books.
I mentioned the fiduciary responsibility of SSNIT. If you first look at the valuation of the hotels, the minimum value was about 81 million. Then the upper limit was in excess of
100 million.
$100 million.
Dollars.
It is surprising how they gave a value of 60 million to the minister. That is the first assessment you have to bring your mind to, because is that value for money? Okay. Why are you even selling? If you need a strategic investor to maybe inject more money into the hotels, why do you give a majority share to a private investor who, once is a majority shareholder, will decide whether to even pay dividend or not to pay dividend? And given the circumstances, you sell 60% of the share, of the value of the asset to him. He has complete control over the assets. So looking at it from that angle too, you realize that SSNIT is not doing the right thing. First, the fair value. Why is it 60 million? Why not the upper limit? So if you take the variance of what they want to do, the 60 million against the value of the upper limit, it's more than double. So value for money issue is there.
So even though you mentioned SSNIT, I think that we should squarely place the thing on the board.
On the board.
Because the board is the policy maker. The board is the one to put together the strategies to make the policies happen. I want to use simple words that people understand.
Yeah.
So that they have a superintending power over the management of SSNIT, coupled with NPRA's authority as a superintending power in a block there to oversee the activities of SSNIT. People are simply not managers. We are message carriers. They're not serious. Board of directors sitting and observing and allowing this thing to happen to people's pension. Clearly what it means is that they were not supposed to be appointed there in the first place. Somehow, for some convenience, they appointed them. Who said that they should sell the 60% majority share? And I'm not, even if they should sell it, fine. Even if they should sell it to our friend and brother Brian as a Ghanaian, and he's not may be considered, like we all know now, that this looks like more of an insider type of trading business. That put aside, I've slept in his hotel in it's such a beautiful piece of something. I have nothing against it. I'm so proud of him as a Ghanaian. But the truth is that the SSNIT board and the MPRA board have done us a lot of disservice. I don't even bother about SSNIT management, because SSNIT management must be called to order by the board. That's the point. That is proper corporate governance, because they have the right to ensure that the policies are clear. The strategies to make the policies happen is about them. Then they go. Why do they go to board meeting? So that the SSNIT management will come and report on these activities, plus clear-cut actuarial studies on how the team is being pursued. They are not serious. I'm sorry.
Has the NPRA directive come too late, or it is a mere PR gimmick? I want to take it from both sides, but you start first.
You know something? When I saw it, I said, wow. Maybe people thought they are being intelligent. We have people in this country that are equally intelligent. It's not fair to us at all. This should have been done by them by 2018, 2019, not today. The president, even I want to pardon him, because the president, even though he's the overall this thing, he has appointed board members. The board members should do their job. I don't want to even go to him. The board members, particularly MPRA, should have called after every board meeting. They should demand accountability. When they're talking about accountability, it's not a figure of speech. We must act. The board minutes, they must demand certain information sharing, so that they can be well informed, and they must be tough. Why did they appoint you? Why did the president appoint you? You know, so please, for heaven's sake, they acted too late. It sounds like it's a joke, a prank on us. It sounds like that, even though it's good. I heard people applauding it. It's good because it has saved the situation, at least calm down the situation. But they shouldn't have said suspend, cancel. Because I have said in another, I said they should tear the team into pieces. They should tear it like this and put it in a dustbin, so that we don't come and talk about it again. Then from next year, whoever wins the next election, SSNIT board can never be composed like this again. SSNIT board can never, and the management team must be solid and non-partisan. We must be serious in this country, because people's pension is at stake. They are the most vulnerable people. Then the MPRA board too must be strong. Look, Ghana, we don't need to go to IMF. SSNIT, and that's the actuarial study we did when we were writing the pension scheme. We realized that we will have huge sums of money, to the extent that we said about 30% can be invested outside, so that government of Ghana can not borrow by political parochial interest, but they will borrow because SSNIT and the pension schemes are commercial entities to make money and to put it and pay people. That's why we separated SSNIT from paying the lump sum to beneficiaries again, so that the second tier will take care of that. So SSNIT can be free to do more business,
to have a revolving fund that will grow.
People good monthly allowance. Unfortunately, it does appear we are talking about SSNIT management as if people in this country, some of us don't know anything about it. It hurts me.
Now, let me come to you, Kosi, because once upon a time in this country, you hear of state institutions that are profitable enough to raise money outside to invest. So the airport company could be one. I think I'm told the ports also did something for the MPS project also. And so these are state entities which have been profitable enough. Are we saying, as we speak today, SSNIT as a body, which has a guaranteed source of income from worker salary, which is mandatory, plus all the addendums that institutions must top up. Is it 15%?
Yeah,
15%.
Yeah.
SSNIT cannot say it has enough space to go out there, raise money to manage the entities.
They don't. They had a deficit.
Or could it be that the workers themselves across board are not angry enough to speak out about how their future is being managed?
Okay, so if you remember the issue of SSNIT during those days in the, I think, early 2000s to the mid 2000s, when Komla Zumo, may he so rest in peace, raised these issues about SSNIT. It looks like attempts were made to, restructure the administrative structure of SSNIT to cut down on the expenditure. But that thing has resurfaced itself. So as 2022, SSNIT had a deficit. It is not a profit-oriented institution. So it either have a surplus fund or a deficit. So as of 2022, 2023, they had deficit. What that means is that they have less money that they need. That is why the actuarial report from they themselves said that by 2036, the scheme will collapse. It can't pay its operational costs and it can't pay the pensions. So if you look at an institution that is in this type of structure, what do you do? For me, that is the angle I want us to look at as well. What do you do? Do you go ahead selling some of your best assets, 60%, and give complete ownership or majority ownership interest to a private person? No. Because that same, let's say the Labadi Beach Hotel, paid dividend to government, 10 million and 20-something million, consistently. So even if you want to sell out some of your assets to rebalance your portfolio, that is acceptable. But you have to select with that fiduciary responsibility in mind to be able to achieve an optimal portfolio. But that is not what we are seeing. We are just seeing that some people are just taking decision and the way they are not even going to get the money immediately. They are paying some, and some will be paid over years. What it means is that they are going to call leveraging. They are going to use the same value of that those hotels can generate, the revenue can generate, to come and pay. So can workers get nothing actually?
But you are smiling. You don't sound like somebody who's angry. That's just by the way. But I'm told we have Mr. Abraham Kumson on the line. We booked him. We'll do a short, brief conversation with him. He's an old man and he has to go to bed. Mr. Kumson, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you.
I'm sorry I have to keep you waiting. We'll do some 5 quick minutes with you because I've just received a text message from Mr. Sampi Yale, who says, I've been a former CEO of NPRA and I've also worked with SSNIT as SSNIT operations coordinator, and I'm very interested in it. I'm asking my producers to get him for a small input. Now, Mr. Kumson, the consensus across Ghana is that you and your members have failed us because you didn't organize yourself to be assertive enough to defend your own money. At this stage, after the NPRA statement, what is next on the table for Federation of Labour and by extension organized labour?
See, I agree with it. Even though it's not every one of us who have, been part of the failure, but we have representatives as protected on the.
Mr. Kumson, I know you may be in bed, but if you can raise your voice a little and then speak a little faster, so that we can make it snappy.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that yes, our representatives on the board have failed us because when the president referred us to, in fact, we wanted to meet with the president earlier, about a month ago. Then he directed us to see the employment minister. We went there. raise these issues. But the Prime Minister is not on the board. So he was blaming our reps on the board that but you guys, you've been involved all these years since 2018, about 6 years now. You were on this board and the issue came up and you participated. You didn't raise any concerns. Why now? So it tells us that, you know, our people, they not help. That's number one. Number two, in fact, I suspect that this is a conspiracy of this government. They are hiding behind this man to, you know, capture all sensitive and very juicy assets so they can, you know, use it when they are even in country. Because the president himself has not shown much interest. You know, just last week, our people went there, went to the Jubilee House. And it's annoying. That's as if we hate Brian. That's why we are doing all these things. How do you talk like that? Who hates him? So if SSNIT, in fact, the SSNIT law that national pension was to be amended. Because if you are very careful, a certain president, you know, comes to office, he can exploit, he can use all the loopholes and the weakness in the law to do so many funny things.
Okay,
like
so
it is happening now.
I get you from that perspective, but Snappy, I'm saying that going forward, NPRA has issued a directive, suspend. It didn't say stop entirely. Labour says stop. NPRA says suspend. Labour is still supposed to be meeting the pensions minister. I am asking, what next? And even the representation on the board, which is still sitting there after putting you in this situation, what will be your demand on them?
Today, I was in Accra. Early morning, I was there. I was going from office to office. We went to Coastal office to see Dr. Bampo. We went to NAT to see Thomas Musa. And in fact, we are all against the same. But the challenge we have now is that the TUC is preparing to go to its Congress. In August. So they are occupied. So to organize the labor leadership meeting now will not be possible. But that doesn't mean that we have given up. We, GFL, we are going to issue a statement.
Okay. All right.
And then the forum will also come out with something before we meet formally as organized labor. So
okay.
that one, I can assure you that for the sale, it will never happen. It will not. Otherwise, the demonstrations that we are going to organize across the regions, it will be something.
Mr.
So
Kusin,
that one, I don't think that anybody will go ahead and sell this. Why can't they employ people? Employ somebody who has the competence to be able to run the hotels. Why? Why can't they employ somebody? Advertise for competent people, skilled people to apply. You interview them and you give them target. Whoever you employ, you give the person target. Why? You put the person on probation for even 1 year or 3 months for 1 year to be sure that the person has the capacity and the experience to manage the place. Instead of selling it out outright.
I know if I give you more time, you will be speaking, but unfortunately, the conversation is exciting, it's peaking, and therefore, I want to engage my guest. And of course, I also received a number of text messages. One is of interest to me because of the role he has played as an organizing operations manager at SSNIT, and at the same time, having been a former CEO, I think the first CEO of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, SAMPIAL. If you can get him for me. Mr. Kumsin raises a number of issues. Now, Mr. Austin Game, with all these that we are seeing, what do you think should be informing NPRA, SSNIT, the president, Labour, etc., going forward? What should we be doing?
To me, onto two, bodies. One, organized labor is very critical for us because they have the power, both numerically and authority, to stop everything that is of no benefit to anybody in this country. They can stop it. All they have to do is to do the right thing, because we shouldn't do things illegally. I agree that if it's necessary to sell an asset, it can be done. There's nothing wrong with that. It's done everywhere across the world. But how you do it is the next thing. And then two, what the role of organized labor in this matter is key, because they have representatives here and there. Though I agree they are in minority, they're about 41% or so on the board. But that their 41% means 100%, as far as I'm concerned.
If you can drag the numbers.
If I am alone representing organized labor on the board, my voice will be 100%.
Yes, we'll be taking a short break because I'll come to you because we have about 15 minutes to wrap up.
Yeah.
And so our next set of conversation will be looking at what we can do differently to make sure we bring this matter to rest, set standards for the way forward. I am on the line with Ambassador Sampi Yale. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
I'm happy you were following this conversation, and I'm most grateful because
I always watch your programs.
Yes, and I'm most grateful because we are whetting your appetite. Now, where we are now, we don't want to go back to history. For you as somebody who was the first CEO of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, where do you think we failed? And if you look at where we are, what can we do differently to make sure we protect the interest of Ghanaians?
Well, thank you very much. I think that if you lay the table of blame, several organizations, individuals should be blamed for what has happened. We almost lost 60% interest in these lucrative businesses. Now, the SSNIT local union itself failed the workers. You know, under SSNIT management, there's representatives of the SSNIT local union. I remember in our time, the union was the one that could stop all such challenges. So first blame goes to the SSNIT local union of ICU, of TUC, the local union. Then again, the board decision to sell these assets is in itself very problematic. Because in this day and age, when all investments are going belly up, it is only in the real estate business, hard assets like hotels, that all organizations are holding on. So the decision to sell itself was bad. Now, some people are blaming Blinder Champon, and I'm beginning to agree that also have been used as a scapegoat. This is a policy of government, the MPP government, in federals of their Ejapadia business, that they should take over all lucrative assets of this country so that they will be in charge even when they are in opposition, square and flat. Now, people have spoken about the role of the SSNIT board. The SSNIT board is pregnant with government representatives. The chairman is appointed by the president, and so. You know, and my friends from the TUC are those who have disappointed me the largest. Now, if you go to a board meeting and you don't agree with the things that are being said at the board meeting, you report to the parent body that sent you there. You know, but it appears to me that majority of the workers, the TUC leaders, may not have been informed about this deal. Because if they did, no right-thinking unionist who believe in the welfare of future and the future of pensioners would have agreed to this. Now, okay. my own NPRA, to cut the story short, my own NPRA had come too late, but it's better late than never. It's true that the NPRA does not have direct oversight on the investment activities of state, but And a decision like this should definitely have appeared in the returns, the periodic returns that go to MPRA from SSNIT. And they would have seen that if SSNIT chalks off this number of institutions, likely they were going to even lose numbers. And when they lose the numbers, it's affecting the workforce that is contributing now to take care of the pensioners. Now, the pension scheme is a ladder. Younger ones take care of the older ones. So if we continuously reduce the workforce currently, that means that we are jeopardizing the future pensions of others.
Okay, so Mr. Sampiale, I'm sure this conversation will travel beyond today. And I knew what your background is, but unfortunately, when I was searching, it didn't even occur to me to chase you for a conversation. But I'm sure right. Subsequently we'll come after you to help us appreciate the ins and outs. But Mr. Austin Gama is here, and so we haven't missed that much because they are some of the brains behind.
Austin is a master. Austin is a master of the team.
Yes, he appears young, but I remember this man when I heard about him. I was in a secondary school. What is your secret, sir?
Yes, we're all deputy ministers. We are deputy ministers then.
Okay,
but
thank you.
The master planner.
Yes, of course, and Ghanaians appreciate his fairness in speaking to national issues. We'll be taking a short break. When we come back, we have 10 minutes to wrap up. And of course, the latter part of this conversation obviously will be what will be, I will call, free advice to all critical stakeholders. Austin Gama will be speaking to the statutory bodies. And of course, Koshi Jokoto, in my opinion, may speak briefly on that. But maybe talk to SSNIT and other critical institutions managing state assets on what they need to look at, other than just thinking of, let's give it to the private sector, because there would always be people there who are ready to feed on what has already been cooked. I'll be back. Welcome back. This is Beyond Politics on TV XYZ. We are live on our social media handles. I was going to Wednesday, but I'll be back shortly. But I'm sitting in for Emmanuel Wilson Jr. He's traveled. He'll be away for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then he will come back to take over his program. But here I am sitting in for him. I'll be wrapping up with my guest. I've been speaking to Austin Gama. Many of you know him in Ghana. Koshi Jokoto is an investment banker. I've spoken to Abraham Kumson for the perspective of those representing labor. Sampi Ali has joined as somebody who was the first to be the CEO of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. And of course, you have been hearing some interesting insights, and of course, most especially from Austin Gama, who gave us some historical background and what he passionately thinks should be done. I'll be reading a few messages, and I'll ask my last few questions. Several messages. I am Solomon, staff from Amasam, and he says, I think we are playing politics with a sensitive issue. Those in power are defending the sale of one of their own, while those beneficiaries are demanding stay of sale. If Ghanaians don't fight against these negative decisions, there will be no assets for the future workers. Kudos to Honorable Ablakwa Awom, and it goes on and on. MPP is indeed looting Ghana, and if there is no tomorrow, as if there is no tomorrow, and their time will soon be up. I will make your messages short because several of them. Good evening, sir. Please, I am Pamford Boateng, a hygiene trainee. Please, I want to ask Dr. Baumia what hygiene trainees are getting their allowances. Please, I am Pamford Boateng, the same message again. SSNIT invests in government bonds and other securities. We want to know how much money was lost by the effects of haircuts of SSNIT and so on. I think either Jokoto or Mr. Austin Game spoke to it. And maybe subsequently we will find out and share that with you. My greetings to our parents, especially Mr. Jokoto, our panelist, especially Mr. Jokoto. Tell him we appreciate his suggestion. Kudos to him. Please tell him I was once a student at Mubusco. I am Adote, a management consultant. So, Jokoto, your friends and students are watching you. I don't get it why we should politicians appoint a board chair of SSNIT and they are not on the SSNIT pension scheme. Yes, it's very interesting. The board chair is not on the SSNIT pension scheme and they are coming to manage an asset they have no interest in. That's a very good contribution from Francis Lewis, who is from Bosome Frehon in the Ashanti region. Please tell the members of the board should be sacked immediately. Good evening, sir. Everything shows that this SSNIT hotel sale is much deeper than a heavyweight backed operation. And the last one says, in a final moment, anyone would wish to have never did what he or she is doing now. A day is coming. Mustafa from Takwa. Thanks for your messages. Now, this question about does it make sense to appoint somebody to chair SSNIT board who himself or herself is not going to be a beneficiary? And there was another question about this issue about privatization is the engine of growth. Privatization is the engine of growth. Is it a psyche that is influencing all this? Let me start with you, but you will speak specifically to the issue about privatization as engine of growth.
Well, this is Africa.
Right.
And this is Ghana. I've been traveling these days on a program, bringing CEOs, bringing vice chancellors of various African countries. I just returned from Zimbabwe. Next week, I'll be in Cote d'Ivoire as a guest speaker on some of these subject matters. Let me tell you very clearly, Ghanaians are normally cowards. We hide in our bedrooms and complain. When somebody who is passionate and concerned and raise a concern, then they start to attack his personality. Let me warn everybody who speaks evil about people who genuinely say their mind, you will know God will punish you. So I've said it. So if you are in your bedroom right now, speaking evil about Samuel Kujeto, about myself, about him, because you've spoken our mind, God will punish you. So stop it. 2, now to the substantive issue. You see, the board should never be appointed by presidents again. We, the owners of the scheme, must meet. President might have a say, so we must meet with the president and tell him who we want. Because when I saw the write-up put in the papers by my
Elizabeth Ohini,
by our sister, senior sister Elizabeth Ohini, I got frightened. And Ghanaians are so divided on partisan lines. Your own money is being misused. You can't talk. And when Sami talk, they want to kill him. All I want to say is that we must stop governments for appointing. We should thank God that we are in injury time, so we can't say anything about it now. But the next government, whether it is John Mahama, whether it is Baumia, whether it is Afafranto, whoever comes there, never again should we, the owners of the money, allow people who have no direct. That thing you read in the paper is good, but who is obeying it? The people there, they don't have interest. Only labor should have been interested in reporting the matter to their colleagues so that together they will attack the issue quickly. Private sector, you will be speaking to it, is a very vital engine indeed. But this is Africa. This is Ghana. I can tell you that we are not doing too well because we don't go through proper corporate governance machinery to enable work to be done in a manner that will bring return on the investments. That's unfortunately the situation, because we pay people for arriving at work, not because they have been given target and they have performed, and we must pay people well. Stop this much-room allowances regime type of thing.
Interesting. Koshi, we don't have much time, but does it make sense, privatization of state assets because the private sector is the engine of growth? Does it make sense in this setting?
My brother, it makes sense, but the issue is how we are carrying it out. It's always the issue. For instance, I keep hammering that the SSNIT issue, we should look at it holistically. SSNIT, as we speak, cannot meet its short-term liabilities, including paying of the monthly pension to people. I'm sure that is one of the main reasons, because in 2020, SSNIT made a surplus. 2021, they made a huge deficit, over 300 million deficits. I'm sure it reflected in 2023 as well. So as we speak, if it continues like that, the SSNIT scheme will collapse. In fact, the ILO prediction that it is, that it's going to be 2036. It is even too long. Unless something drastic happens to SSNIT, that is why we have to look at it, and the corporate governance structure of SSNIT need to be looked at. Well,
unfortunately, my time is up, but we've had some interesting perspectives in this conversation we had on the SSNIT hostels sales. But I'm taking a lot of interesting points away. First of all, the SSNIT Workers Union, the local union, they are contributors to SSNIT. They have seen what is going on. Could it be because the workers themselves don't qualify to be there because they may have been appointed either yesterday or today by people in politics who have pushed them there and they are just there? How would it look like if a certain government comes and it wants to be very radical and clear as many people as possible, including the directors, because they are part of the crisis? Because if you keep quiet and live in the comfort of your home on the largesse you are taking as fat salaries and emoluments or conditions of service, on the sweat of the average worker who after several years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and be taking home 500 cedis, 700 cedis, 1,000 cedis, and a young man today will be enjoying, and you are not managing the asset well, and tomorrow we are told it could collapse. Can you imagine what it means? Again, Austin Game makes a very strong point. People sit in their homes and go to Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and find out how many people poured on the streets when Okudzeto called a demonstration. Kenya did something we don't want in this country, but they got results. Stay at home and be a coward. But my take is be part of the national discourse. When we talk about good governance, sometimes your voice can also whip people to line. That's how we end Politics and Beyond today. Next week, we'll bring you another edition. But don't forget, there will be a repeat of this program. And so we'll advertise the time and all of us. And before that, let me say thank you to Koshi Jokoto. And then, of course, to Austin Game. Koshi Jokoto is an investment banker. Austin Game is everything, including management, a trainer, pensions, I would add expert. Maybe he doesn't want to, but I will call him a pensions expert, an ADR expert, somebody who is into labor issues. I think 2 days ago you were speaking for, was it nurses?
No, the laboratory people.
Laboratory people. And so that's how we end the program. My name is Ahianyo. Thanks for watching, and let's meet again next week. Bye.